What's up? Rick Polton, Brian Inman, Whole Damn Enchilada Podcast, live. How is it going, my friend?
The duck was still headbanging from the tunes, man.
Hell yeah, dude. The duck.
The duck. Purple duck.
T-shirts. We're going to throw that duck on a T-shirt.
With a broken hourglass. With a broken hourglass. With a broken hourglass.
With a broken hourglass. Yeah. Right on. Big show tonight. Big show. We got
all whites on?
No, not but close, man. Close. This guy's a pretty big motherfucker. Almost as big. We got C.Ernst Harth from 13 Ghosts, Supernatural, many other things. Say It Isn't So. Yeah, it's good stuff. So he's going to be on joining us shortly. And I think
wasn't he in Scooby-Doo also?
Scooby-Doo, 2 Scooby-Doo movies.
So, yeah, so he's worked with Matthew Lillard then multiple times.
Yeah. So I'm sure he'll have some stories about that. And he was in Christmas Story 2. So there's a little Cleveland connection, sort of.
I watched that once.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him if he's like a fan of the original.
Who isn't? Unless you're just a hater.
See, I watch it, I like it, but I don't like it the way most Cleveland people like it.
I liked it when I lived in Florida. It had nothing to do with Cleveland.
I don't, like Cleveland people think it's the greatest thing in history, the greatest Christmas movie ever, and I don't.
Other than Die Hard, it probably is the best Christmas movie.
Die Hard. Oh man,
Die Hard's a great movie, and it's a Christmas movie.
It is absolutely a Christmas movie. Absolutely, it's on the list.
First Lethal Weapon's also a Christmas movie.
After the show tonight, 9 o'clock-ish, 8 o'clock-ish, you and you will be on the show, and we will be both in the comments for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be, you guys will be covering standalone 80s slasher flicks. So any franchise is disqualified. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And a sequel, no good.
No good. And also, I eliminated things that were remakes or were even remade years later. I eliminated that. Maybe the other person did or didn't, but I did. So, like your shirt right there, your shirt you're wearing right now would be number 1 on anyone's list, but it's a remake.
Is it a slasher though? I thought they had to be
a slasher / horror. It could be horror.
Okay. Yeah. What is up, JP? Speaking of JP,
there he is.
Yeah, there he is.
You're gonna feel like you're in a time machine if you tune into the Cine Nerds podcast after this, because I will have a beard in that one.
No, it'll just grow back by then.
it'll just grow.
That's how it is, dude.
We are live.
You would shave, and then it would be like 5 minutes later. Was it Homer Simpson when he would shave? Is he the guy that did that?
I think
there's some cartoon character they would shave and it would grow right back.
So it'll be a smooth transition. My beard will have grown back, and I would have driven to JP's house in like a minute and changed clothes.
Right on. All right. Well, our guest has popped into the waiting room, but his camera is not connected, so we're gonna give him a second to figure that out.
In the meantime,
what do you got there?
LaCroix.
Oh, LaCroix. We need to get a LaCroix sponsorship. We've been drinking LaCroix every week. I got a flat old Coke. If you could see the color in there, that thing's all watered down, and yeah, it's no good.
Always grapefruit.
Yeah. So that's what I'm drinking on. It's not the best. I went to Speedway and got a couple Diet Pepsis, but they weren't cold. I didn't feel like going to another store.
Ugh.
So, well, I mean, I obviously can't drink them.
I actually went to a Speedway today, and I got a Pepsi slushie out of the machine.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
It was very refreshing because it was like 88 degrees today driving around.
A Pepsi slushie, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I know the Coke slushie. I've never seen the Pepsi slushie.
Speedway in Talmadge, Ohio. Adam. They had Mountain Dew as well, but I didn't want to, go full hillbilly.
Mountain Dew. They ever hear the Mountain Dew song? This shit is fucking great. I'm not gonna sing it. Jim Cornette always sings it. What's up, Joshua? How you doing tonight? All right. So I'm waiting for our guest's camera to connect, and then I'll bring him on. And I might just have to do it without it in a minute. I text him to see if he has a camera. Maybe he doesn't even have one. Might just have to do audio.
Oh, did he respond?
He did not. Charles Sherrod in the house. Private chat. Here he is. He's over here probably. Oh, God. Connected. No camera. He says he has no camera. Okay. No sound. No sound. Yeah, because you're not on yet. They need to connect their mic and cam before they can be on the stream. So go back out and then try to come back in and try it again. I'm going to kick you from the studio. We're going to have you come back and try it again. I got all the questions for Leslie over here in the private chat.
Oh yeah.
They're still on there. Never deleted them.
In the meantime, though, did you see the second trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 was released?
I seen that. I hear the game's coming out in 2026.
Next year, yeah, next spring, a year from now. It's insane. The dude's sitting there drinking a beer, and you can see the fucking bubbles in it.
It's crazy.
Like, yeah,
he's popped back in. It doesn't say no. There he is. He's there. So we're gonna just go ahead and bring him on. What's up, brother?
Something in my face. Can you see me? I got something in my face. Or?
Yeah,
that's our sponsor, CSR Collectibles. I'll get that out of there. Let me see how we can get there. Where's the
sorry, sponsors.
Bam!
There we go. There we go.
We'll put him back on later. But CSR Collectibles, use the promo code Enchiladas. You'll save money. We'll get some money. And right now they have a private signing with two Jasons that are pretty hard to get. They have Spencer Stump and Caleb Gus, who were two of the young Jasons in two of the various films. And they're on there. And I didn't raise enough money through my GoFundMe to get Richard Brooker, but I did raise enough money to get Spencer Stump. So I used the money for that for my birthday last week. But anyway, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great, thanks. The technology doesn't always want to play along, but I'm here.
Yeah. It means like that sometimes. Let's see.
I didn't notice there was a little window up in the top left corner of my computer. It says, "Do you want to allow?"
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always tell people our first guests that we had on here were John Dugan and Alan Danziger from Texas Chainsaw. So I always tell people, like, those dudes are 80. If they figured it out, you got to be able to figure it out. I'm sorry.
No, the worst was I did an interview with someone and I was sitting at home waiting for them to send me the link, and they assumed that it was going to be over Facebook Live.
Yeah.
But I don't have a cell phone. And you can only get through, they kept saying, go to your bottom corner and press join. I said, I don't got no join on my desktop. He goes, no, on your phone. I said, I don't have a cell phone. So they ended up having to figure out StreamYard. Just like
yeah, StreamYard's so much easier. That's why we use it. It's just like boom, boom, boom. It's all awesome. But so how did you get into acting? How would you get your start in acting? We'll start right there.
Yeah. Well, I was always the silly goof at home, always acting the clown, and even before you know what acting is, you're already an actor. But I've told this story before, but it's funny. When I went to school for the first time in kindergarten, I got brought to the office. They called me down to the office, and I thought, oh boy, my first time in school, I'm already in trouble. And it turned out that this school had a tradition every year. This was K-5, and they had a tradition every year. They would have the largest kid in the school play Santa Claus in the Christmas pageant, and which was usually grade 4 and 5 students, right? Because that's what was the pageant was filled with. But I was the largest kid in the school already in kindergarten. so they asked me if I wanted to play Santa Claus. Now, I doubt you could get away with this nowadays, but I said, sure. And by the time Christmas rolled around and we did the pageant, and I was Santa Claus in my little suit, and I was sitting on my throne, my chair up on the stage, and I was being Santa Claus for the pageant. And it just hit me all of a sudden as a 5-6-year-old. It hit me. It was like I'm sitting there on stage, and I have these grade 4 and 5s looking up to me, and I'm just in kindergarten, and the audience is laughing and cheering, and it was just like everything I've ever wanted in the first 5.5 years of my life. It was like, I've got all the attention in the world. I love this. I got to figure out how to do this. So then throughout school, it was just, doing as many assemblies and as many skits and as many things as I could. I got involved with improv, community theater. A friend of mine and I in high school, we used to go to the nursing homes, and the old age homes, and we would do like Whose Line Is It Anyway, like improv games with the elderly residents.
That's awesome.
We felt sad because nobody's coming to visit them, no family. They basically just drop them off there and wait for them to die, sadly.
And so a lot of those places.
True.
And so this was just an opportunity to put a smile on their face and to see them laugh and have some. I mean, we didn't do anything serious. It was just like making sound effects and acting like robots and that kind of thing. But the biggest, not to sound like the greatest guy in the world, because the reality was I did this because I could get out of class in the afternoon.
That's a bonus too. Yeah,
it's not just why you're doing something. Sometimes it's the fact that you're doing it. And even though I wanted to get out of class and that was my motivation back then, this many years later, that still means something to me because of the looking and seeing the reactions on their faces and what have you. So that was my high school, was more of that, school plays and everything. And I still didn't even think of acting as a career or a job, because who thinks about that? Hollywood is far away. The movies are far away. When I was a kid, the people in the movies lived in the movie theater and the people on TV lived in your TV. What do I know, right? It wasn't until I moved to Vancouver. This was in Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I took a bus when I was 19 to the west coast of Canada, Vancouver. And so that was a 4.5 day bus ride. I recommend people do that once and then never again, but it's a life-changing experience to sit on a bus for 4.5.
I did a bus ride once. I moved back from Florida. I live in Ohio. On a Greyhound with like 4 garbage bags full of stuff. And it was like a 12-hour bus ride. I could not imagine 4 days. There's no way.
And it was like daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. And then, of course, 2.5 days of that travel was through the prairies. So it was like I'd fall asleep, sleep for 8 hours. I'd wake up and it looked exactly the same outside the window. Nothing has changed. And then, of course, we went to the Rockies in the middle of the night. Didn't see any of it. Oh, and the weirdest part was I was with a friend and I was sleeping. Well, what I didn't know is that we were going up the mountain. We were getting to the top of the mountain, and there was like a bus station where they would stop to have a break, a smoke break, and something to eat. And I didn't realize that while we were going up the mountain, my ears popped. So we stop at this bus stop, and my friend is trying to get my attention to tell me that we're going out to get something to eat. And he's shaking me, and I look over at him. He's going. And I'd lost my mind. I'm deaf. What happened? I can't hear. I didn't know my ears popped while I was sleeping. So cut to 10 minutes later, I'm in the bus station, and all of a sudden I'm like, tuna sandwich. It's like all of a sudden the voice came back, and I didn't realize I'd been screaming the whole time. But we got to Vancouver, and I ended up getting a job as a doorman at this nightclub. It was like a 2,500 seat nightclub. They had like 25, 30 doormen on a busy night. Like it was like 2 stories. It was massive.
Crazy.
They had built for the World Exposition, Expo 86, the World's Fair. And after that ended, this was one of the buildings that survived that, and they had turned it into a massive nightclub. But they had like, world entertainment, like the biggest names in the world would perform there. And I ended up doing backstage security for like probably 150 different bands. And I got that experience from that. But while I was working there, one night, 2 women approached me and they said, "Excuse me, are you in the film industry?" And I didn't even know what that meant. I said, "No." She said, "Do you do any acting?" I said, "Well, I did acting in high school." "Why?" She goes, "You have a very interesting face. I think we could do something with that." I was like, "Okay." They go, "Here's my card. Give us a call and we'll see what we can set up." And they walked away. And I thought to myself, bunch of chicks just trying to pick me up, whatever. Put the card in my pocket and went on with the night. Got home, threw the card on the desk. A couple of weeks later, I'm cleaning up paperwork and stuff. I come across their card, and I hadn't actually looked at the card this whole time, so I didn't even know who they were or what they were. So I picked up the card and I looked, and they're talent agents, and I thought, oh, they must be telling the truth. So I called them, and within a week, I was shooting a national commercial.
Oh, awesome!
And then, as they say, the ball never stopped rolling. That was what got me. I was in 1990, and then I was like a part-time actor, and had day jobs, and then whenever I get a gig here and there at night, and I did that for the first 6 years, and then in '96 I got approached to do a lead in a feature, and they were going to need me for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And there was no way my boss was going to give me 3 weeks off. So that was like one of those moments in life where I said to the universe, "Okay, you want me to be an actor? Here, I'm choosing acting, but you got to take care of me because I'm giving up my full-time job here."
Absolutely.
And that was '96. And I've been an actor and nothing but an actor ever since. And,
what
ahead.
was your first commercial? What was it for?
Oh, the first commercial that I did in 1990 was BC Chicken Growers. It was basically, how they have the milk board and the pork board and the beef board, and they have the commercials basically trying to get people to go out and buy their product. Well, this was all the chicken farmers in British Columbia, and they had put together this ad, and it was basically to sell the chicken, any kind of chicken, just go buy chicken. And the commercial was, I was a prisoner who had just gotten arrested, and the cop was taking me to the cop shop, but got hungry and stopped at a restaurant. So this woman playing this little cop is sitting there with this big basket of fried chicken, and she's eating her lunch. And I'm sitting next to her. I've got a glass of water, a piece of bread, and my handcuffs, and I'm sitting there as the prisoner, just waiting to give it, because she has to stop and have her lunch. And she's talking to the camera, and as she's talking to the camera, she's waving a drumstick around, and she's using it like a baton. And she goes, "And you got to do this, do that." And the whole time I'm just sitting there, just watching this drumstick, and finally I can't take it anymore, and I lunge in front of her. I was like, "Ah!" And I grabbed the chicken with my mouth, and she yells, "Freeze!" And I dropped the chicken. And I had turned 20 on February 2nd. I shot this on February 27th, 1990. And so it was like, that was my big introduction to acting, into Vancouver, into adulthood, into everything. And all of a sudden, my face was on bus shelters. My face was on the side of buses, on billboards, on commercials, on TV everywhere. And I thought, my God, I'm a superstar. This is the best business ever. And then, of course, the next 3 things I did were background extra work. And all of a sudden I was like, realized, okay, it's not going to be like that every time. Now I'm making $5 an hour and sitting in the pouring rain.
Yeah,
but that was what got me hooked. And I remember at the audition for that, I knew nothing. I didn't have nothing. First of all, I didn't have a resume. I didn't have a headshot. So when they asked me for a headshot, I didn't even know what they were. They had to take a Polaroid of me in the lobby. And so my headshot was a Polaroid, and my resume was, I didn't do anything. I don't got nothing. And then they said to me, "Okay, before we get started, we're going to get you to do a slate." And I'm like, Thankfully, we had to do the commercial as a team. So I had one of the girls auditioning for the cop in there with me. So I'm like, pick her first. Go start with her. And I was like basically watching to see what she does.
Right. You never want to be first when it's something you don't really know.
No,
you know,
and then so she starts saying her name and her agency and everything, and I went, oh, okay, I think that's what a slate is. Okay, so they cut to me and I go, hi, I'm C.Ernst Harth, and I'm what? You must have her name. Didn't even know the name of the agent or nothing. So thankfully it got better from there. But yeah, that was the beginning. And
put that business card back in your pocket.
Well, I should have kept that. Yeah. But yeah, that was in 1990. And I had no idea that there was a film industry in Vancouver at that point.
That was going to be my next question. Was that the reason you moved to Vancouver? Because I know that we've had a lot of people on and they shoot a lot in Vancouver.
Yeah, a lot and more over the years. But no, I was living on student welfare. I got kicked out of the house when I was like 17. So I was basically in grade 12, and I was sitting in a donut shop with a friend who had been to Vancouver before a couple of years earlier. And he said, what do you want to do today? And I was like, I don't know. He says, you want to go to Vancouver? Okay. I knew where Vancouver was. It's like, Canada's a big country. It's like 6 time zones. And it's like, you have no reason to know what's on the other side of the country back then, especially before the internet. You didn't know nothing. It's like wherever Vancouver. Okay. I think I had seen something in 1986 during Expo 86, one of the shows on TV, like 100 Huntley Street, one of like the 700 Club, one of those religious shows. I think they did as I was flipping channels, I came across one of them doing a live stand-up at the Expo. That was all I knew of Vancouver. So I said, okay, let's go to Vancouver. So the next day, I just went back to my place, grabbed a bunch of clothes, put it in a bag. I didn't even tell anybody I was moving. Didn't tell the landlord I was moving. I just got the same with him. And we just came here, and we got off the bus, and he had only known the Skid Row, the real dumpy part of downtown where all the bums and drug addicts and stuff were. That was the only part of town he'd known when he was out here. So basically that's where we ended up. And I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any knowledge of anything. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have anything. But I had the fact that I was 400 pounds and 6'6".
Yes.
So I know I can. I already at that point, I knew I could work in bars. I had worked in bars back in Ontario. So he says, I know a place. So we went to a bar. It must have been like 10:30 in the morning. The bar wasn't even open. The guy was inside cleaning or mopping or whatever. And I said, hi, I'm looking for a job as a bouncer or doorman. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. We don't need any doormen. I said, okay. And I turned around, started to walk out, took about 2 steps. And he says, I'm just looking for a DJ. Now, I've never been in a DJ booth other than playing music on the radio. I don't know what a DJ does. I know nothing, but I know how to act, right? And I know
until you make it.
So
fake it till you make it. Absolutely.
So within that 1 second of me stopping, as I'm turning around, I'm thinking, okay, what nightclubs have I been to? I'm just thinking of clubs I've been to back east, right? So I turn around and go, well, aren't you lucky? Because I used to be head DJ at Stages nightclub back in Kitchener, Ontario. I used to be the head DJ at the Twist nightclub. I used to just naming clubs that I'd visited as a patron. And he says, really? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, thank God. It's like a savior. Okay, thank you. He says, come back at 6. You can meet Ali. He's the head DJ, and you can work everything out with him. I said, okay. So we leave. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I have nothing to do till 6 o'clock. So we basically just walked around downtown and went from restaurant to restaurant and had a burger here and something here, just killing time until then. It turned out that I was going to get a room in the hotel above the bar. So then now I got a place to stay, and I was going to have a job. And because when I first started, I was on probation. So I was going to get $5 a shift, not an hour, a shift, because, the rooms included $5. So basically at the end of the night and I'd get a beer, watered down, filthy, So I come back at 6 o'clock. Well, what I didn't know, because when I went there in the morning, it was empty and I didn't actually really look around. It's a strip club.
Oh, right.
So I walk in at 6 o'clock. The place is packed. Lights are, red light, green light, blue light. The lights are flashing. Music's blaring. There's a half naked woman on stage. And I go through the bar. I said, "Hi, I'm looking for Allie." He goes, "Yeah, he's in the DJ booth." And I'm looking for the DJ booth. And all of a sudden I notice there's like a sliver about this big cut in the wall behind the bar, basically where there used to be a storage closet. And so I had to like slide in there sideways. They had just like the framing of the computer here. There was basically a hole this big and dug out of the wall where the DJ could look through and see the stage at the other side of the bar. And that was the DJ booth. So I squeeze in there and I go, "Hi, are you Allie?" He says, "Yeah, are you Tiny?" Because at that time, that was my name on the streets. Because people are original when you're my size. Right? So
anybody that's 6'6" and 400 pounds is always tiny.
Yes. So I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Great. So you're the new DJ?" I said, "I guess so." He goes, "Good. I'll see you at midnight." And he leaves. That's it.
You're just there.
I'm just standing there, music playing, ladies on stage taking her clothes off, and I'm just standing there. He assumed I know what I'm doing, so he just left.
Yeah, I mean, you were DJing all these top clubs in Toronto.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I realize, wow, it's really quiet in here. And all I could hear are still the lights, because the lights don't stop. They're still making the noise. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so I look down, and I see a board, and I see one of the levers that says MIC. Well, I wasn't born yesterday. I know what a mic is, right? So I grab the switch and I push it all the way to the top, and throughout the whole bar you hear and people are ducking for cover, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's that noise?" Total feedback through the whole place. I finally pulled it back until the noise went away. And then I go, "Okay, guys," and now I'm trying to remember what I've heard in strip clubs in the past. "Okay, guys, let's hear some noise for and I'm looking around for a piece of paper or something with the woman's name on it, because I don't know nothing, right? I'm like, "Let's hear it for what's her name?" And you forget you're on a mic, so everything that's coming out of your mouth is going out to the bar. I'm like, "Oh shit, what?" And all of a sudden, from the other side of the bar, I look through the hole and I see I hear LaDonna, and I look up and there's a woman standing there completely naked with her hands on her hips, and I go, "Okay, guys, let's hear it for LaDonna." And just as I get that out, they all start going, "Shower, shower, shower, shower," and they all want to shower. They want her to do a shower encore. I'm like, because they had like a little champagne glass on stage, and they had like a little ball inside where the water came out and sprayed. So she would go in there and do her little wash up or whatever. And it's like, "Oh, well, it seems you guys want some shower time. So let's hear it for LaDonna. Put your hands together and here we go." And I look over, and this is how old I am. There's just 2 tape decks, right? 2 cassette players. And that was the music for the place. And I looked down at the board next to Mike. It said deck 1, deck 2. So I know them, deck 1, deck 2. Okay. So what I didn't know was that the DJ earlier must have faded out of a song.
Yeah.
So I go, "Okay, guys, time for shower. Let's go. Here we go." And I press play, and it goes, I didn't realize that he had faded out, so he was at the end of the song. So I got about 3 seconds of music, and all of a sudden I go, "Okay, guys, there you go." She's like 1 foot in the air. She's trying to step over to get into the shower, and I'm already telling her to get off the stage. And it was a complete mess, complete nightmare. By the time midnight rolls around, Ali, the head DJ, comes back, and he walks in the bar and hears me. "Okay, guys, remember, while you're feeding those hungry eyes, you can also quench those thirsty lips. We got highballs, $2.75. We have beer, $5. Now stick around, because coming up next, we have the luscious LaDonna." I've completely. You
eventually got good at that, obviously.
Yeah, and so now the bar ends, everything goes. I go upstairs to my room, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, "What the hell is that smell? It smells like sour cream and onion chips or bleh. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh wait, you've been on a bus for 5 days. You've just worked in a bar all day, stewing in your smell, in this smoky dive of a strip club. And now it's like 2:30 in the morning and I'm sitting upstairs like, oh God, I got to take a Well, this place didn't have bathrooms in each room. So there was only communal bathrooms on each floor, but there were only 2 bathtubs in the whole hotel. So there was like on the 2nd floor and the 5th floor, there was a bathtub. So I go to the first bathtub and there's a guy passed out full of puke all over himself and he's laying in the bathtub. I'm like, oh God, that's not going to work. So I go down to the second one. It's empty. I'm like, oh, thank God. I turn the switch, bloop, bloop. And it was like liquid rust coming out of the thing. I just want to shower. God, I just want to shower.
You got to go hit up LaDonna in the shower that she was working.
I'm just going to say, I'm sitting there and I'm going, all I want is a shower. And as soon as I said shower to myself, I hear shower. And I go, oh. And I go, thank God they were stupid enough to give me a key to the bar. Down the stairs I go. I open up the bar. It's like 3:00 in the morning now. The bar is completely black. So I turn on the power, but as soon as you turn the power on, the lights come on. So now I'm in an empty bar with red light, green light, blue light, red light. Turn the shower on. I get up on stage. I'm standing next to the champagne glass, waiting for the water to get warm. I step in the thing. I'm completely naked, standing on stage. This is my introduction to Vancouver. I'm standing in the champagne glass. I got the little bar of soap from the bathtub upstairs, and I start bathing. It was like the best shower I've ever had in my life. I was scrubbing. I was getting ready. And the whole time, it's like red, yellow, red. All the lights are going off in the place I'm showering. And all of a sudden, I hear, and I turn. I'm like, what the hell? And I hear like what sounds like a metal bucket. And I turn, and there's a little East Indian janitor standing there with his bucket. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, please tell me you're not the feature next week. So that was my introduction to Vancouver. So yeah, I had no idea there was a film industry. I didn't know they shot stuff here. I didn't know anything. And as I started spending more time doing gigs and doing some small stuff on Canadian television, that's when I realized they started bringing up Stephen Cannell in the 80s had all these cop shows, 21 Jump Street and The Wise Guy and MacGyver. And there was all these type shows and they were all shooting in Vancouver. So it was starting to get bigger and bigger. And so I started getting involved in more of those shows. And then, there's been the opportunity to go down to LA. I've been down to LA for meetings. I've been down there for like wardrobe and makeup fittings and stuff. But I've had producers over the years say, why don't you move down there? And I used to always say, because I'm too busy working here. It's like,
right. Exactly.
I'm in a small pond, but I'm a really big fish here. Right. And I don't need to go somewhere where all of a sudden there's 50 guys that look exactly like me. And on lately, it's gotten to the point where it's like, why don't I get brought? I used to do all these creatures. I used to do all these creature performers, creature suits and stuff. And I used all these monsters, and I would do trolls and ogres and all that stuff. And I was like, how come I don't get brought out for that kind of stuff anymore? And my wife says, because you're 55, because in your brain, you're still the same guy you were 30 years ago. But yeah.
So I read somewhere that you were an ex-pro wrestler.
Yeah, I saw that on IMDb.
Is that accurate?
Well, here's the thing: when you're starting off in this business, if you embellish anything, like I did a film and I was being interviewed by the publicist, and I had hung around a small wrestling promotion in Ontario, and I had become like a ring boy, like the guy that helps set up the ring and stuff. And while I was doing that, I was creating, like, it was like, oh, if I was a wrestler, I'd create this character. And I had all my characters. I had the whole shtick already invented in my head that if I was going to become a wrestler. So when I was talking with this publicist, I may have left out the fact that I was only a ring boy.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I used to be involved with wrestling. And then I just told him the character I had created, but I didn't tell him that I had created this character. I told him that I was this character.
Right.
And it was just a casual conversation, and you never think anything of it when you're talking to somebody. Next thing you know,
they never actually used you. It's 6'6" and
exactly. Well, because
Rick had mentioned to me that you were a wrestler, and just based on your size, I would have never guessed that you were wearing.
Well, yeah, and I've been cast many times as fighters, wrestlers types because of my wrestling past, because they've read it. Because what happens is,
you would have been the second pro wrestler we had, because Brett Wagner started doing that.
So what I did was, I sat down with this publicist, and then as we're talking, I just briefly mentioned this. And next thing I know, it's in the press kit for the movie. Next thing I know, it's all of a sudden the press kit is online. Next thing I know, it's showing up on different movie sites and stuff. Professional wrestler turned actor, this and that. Then all of a sudden I show up. I see one day it's on my Wikipedia. Then I noticed someone added used to be a professional wrestler to my IMDb, and at that point I went, okay, I used to be a professional wrestler. And here's the character I had created. This is the character I had created.
Okay.
He wore a black robe. He had on a big chain with a big gold necklace around his neck. His head was shaved in a mohawk this way, and then in a mohawk from ear to ear. So it was like a cross. And his name was the Bible Thumper. And when he would pin a guy, he would then take out his little New Testament and shove it down the guy's throat. That would really go off. Nowadays, I'd be a heel for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I could so picture me being this character that it sort of became real. As the more I would talk about this character, it just became. Next thing I know, I'm shooting a commercial for this cheese. And I had told the director earlier in the day about this character. So next thing you know, we're doing the first scene, and there's no audio because it's a commercial. So he says, I want you to enter the scene as the Bible Thumper. And so I'm like, look out, it's the Bible. And I'm creating this as if I've done this thing before. And next thing I know, a wrestling documentary hears that I used to be the Bible Thumper, and they want to interview me for their wrestling documentary. I'm like, okay, I think the hole's getting too big here now. But the closest I've come to this maybe blowing up in my face was I got hired to do an episode of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV series. And the episode was I was going to be tag team wrestlers, me and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh, nice.
We're going to be partners, and we were going to be wrestling these two other guys, and it was the whole episode was about this wrestling match. And I got booked. I was shooting Dudley Do-Right at the time, and I was shooting Camouflage with Leslie Nielsen, and I was shooting another. So I was doing 3 films, and then I got booked on this thing, which was shooting in another outside in Alberta, Calgary, Alberta. So now my agent they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to work out the schedule between these 3 movies and have him fly to Calgary to shoot this thing with Bret the Hitman Hart and then fly back? So they rearranged the schedule. It all worked out. And then I had my plane tickets and everything. And then my agent calls me and says, the studio is going to let you go. You'll still get paid. Don't worry about that. But it turns out that Bret the Hitman Hart, because the show was shooting in Calgary and that's their hometown, he says, I never got a chance to do any acting with my brother Owen. And if I'm going to do a tag team, it would mean a lot to me if I could do this in Calgary with my brother Owen. And of course, a few months later is when Owen got killed. So, I can't really feel bad about it because he got to have that moment with his
Owen Hart. That's not bad.
But I've had nights where I'm laying in bed going, oh God, if this had actually happened and I'd been in the ring with, it's like, all of a sudden it's like the kid who watched wrestling his whole life is now in the ring and he has to like immediately know what he's doing. So it's like you're not
already in the ring with a wrestler, you're in the ring with the wrestler, especially
exactly.
in Canada. I mean, so Bret Hart's pretty much royalty up there.
Yeah. And the fact that my last name is one letter off from his, right? So it would have been Hart and Harth, right? But I'm just glad it worked out for him. I'm glad the truth was I had 3 films on the go. The last thing I needed was another one. Oh, I'm too busy, But yeah, I was not a wrestler. But if people want to think I was a wrestler, I was in wrestling. I wrestled in high school, so I'm not going to take it any beyond that. But yeah, the Bible thumper will forever be. But it blows my mind. And 30 years later, that nobody has still come up with the Bible thumper. It's such a perfect name.
I like that you said you were booked and not hired. That means wrestling.
Yeah. I know a little kayfabe. Okay. So my dad used to do sparring with wrestlers, old time wrestlers like Whipper Billy Watson and guys that like in the 60s.
I go back all the way to the beginning.
He used to do sparring at Western Gym. When he ran away from home, he came to Vancouver too. So in the back of my mind, I had known about Vancouver only as that town that my dad ran away to in the 60s when he was a teenager. And it's funny because growing up, he would tell me all these horrible places. Never go to this place, never go to that place, never go to this place. Within the first day and a half of being in Vancouver, I went to all those places and moved into one of them.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I basically that's how I got into acting, and that's how I became a professional actor. And I wasn't a wrestler, sort of was a wrestler, but we'll leave it at I was a wrestler.
If you would have showed up for that, though, you would have.
I would have learned real quick.
Yeah, you would have, as they say, worked yourself into a shoot.
Yeah, he would have taken me on a little road trip to the dungeon.
Stu was still around back then too.
Yeah. Stu.
Oh yeah.
So you worked with Matthew Lillard a couple times, and you did Scooby Doo with them. You did, of course, 13 Ghosts. What was it like working with Matthew Lillard?
Well, like I've said to other people, you have weird memories of these things because I didn't normally work with him because, they would shoot the Minor 49er stuff. I worked with him more on Scooby-Doo because there was more interaction between Minor 49er and Shaggy than the stuff on 13 Ghosts was. The monsters were usually shot from the actor's point of view, so the actors weren't usually there. They would, the camera was them shooting at us. But there was a couple times where in the basement where I'm sitting with my mom in 13 Ghosts, with my mom is sitting on my lap and she's feeding me, and when we're still locked in our cell. And he's down there and he's walking around and he notices us. So I remember that. And then there was the scene where they first revealed that we've escaped our cell, and my mom and I come around the corner and I got my bloody axe and he's at the other end of the hall with the maid, and they're like, ooh. He's a great guy. He's so down to earth. From what I've seen from him on footage I've seen from him at different conventions and stuff, he's just exactly the same as you see him there. He's like that when you work with him. When you have even if you have a 10-second conversation with him, he's focused right in. You're like the most important person for that 10 seconds. Like you really feel it. Like you got his attention, and that's what he's like on set. And he's one of those guys who just is not afraid to commit and sell the scene. As you can see in those 2 movies, he really goes for it. But most of my interactions with him were like, as he's going to set and I'm leaving set, at craft service table, those kind of things. There's this, even in the one Fangoria they did a 2 or 3 issues of Fangoria about 13 Ghosts back before it came out and then after it came out. And I remember there's an article where he says, I couldn't even eat in the lunch tent anymore because the big baby would make me sick. Because, I'm sitting there eating my lunch and you totally forget what you look like, right? But I got like the bib with puke and everything. And that puke was like latex. It wasn't even like real puke. It was part of the bib, and then the stuff on my face, they would just stick it there, and then it was like plastic puke. as opposed to when I did Trick or Treat, where I had, God, I had real puke. They made a puke that was made up of onion and leek soup, chunks of hot dog, different kinds of beer. It was just the most.
Way you make some natural puke yourself, man.
Yeah, well, trust me. Once this stuff was on me, I wasn't far behind. This stuff was awful. The puke that they had, because I was supposed to look like I had been drinking and partying all night, and then I passed out and I had the puke on me. But just going back to I mean, just to sit with Trick or Treat for a second. At the end of the film, 3 months later, they call me back and they say they want to do some footage of where the wolves are attacking me. And so we went back in the animatronic. We did a big neck piece where my neck's ripped open, and they had the animatronic wolves ripping my neck apart and everything. And when I get there, they give me my outfit to wear, and it still has the dried puke from 3 months earlier. So on top of the prosthetics and the glue and the makeup and the fake blood smell, I still have 3-month-old leek soup with hot dogs and beer on me.
Yeah, that's
so. And then they didn't show any of that in the film. They didn't show any of that in the film.
Use it. Oh, that's awful.
No, because now in the film you just see me back there passed out, and that's you just assume that they've attacked. Yeah. They have attacked me. But I remember on that, nobody told me that the women would be stripping naked. So I remember sitting there, and the women start doing their little dance and Trick or Treat. They're doing their little dance around the fire, and I'm sitting there pretending to be passed out. And as soon as they yelled "cut," I opened my eyes just as a woman in front of me is putting her top back on. I was like, oh, what?
Hey,
nobody told me this was going.
Just imagine if there was a mic button next to you.
Yeah. So you have played like so many like memorable like characters where you're in makeup for like hours and you're just all these different characters. Which character that you've played was your favorite to play, and which one was maybe like the hardest to play? The two-parter there.
Well,
I know which one my favorite is, but I'll get to that in a second.
It's a tricky one because the hardest one, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, was just a lot. It was like 6 hours of makeup and then 2.5 hours of wardrobe to get into everything. So by the time I was being brought to set, I'd already worked a full day, and now every minute that I spend on set is in overtime. So, you know, let's just say my wife's wedding ring, she calls it her Scooby-Doo ring.
There you go.
But that one was hard because, well, the only good thing about that was after we did The Great Child on 13 Ghosts, I lost just over 200 pounds. And so the first thing I get hired on after I lose all that weight is Scooby-Doo 2. And the first thing they want to do is build me a fat suit. So they basically built me back up to the size I was. So the good thing is I got to take that off at the end of every day instead of taking it home with me. But it was hard because underneath everything, I had a cooling suit that they had made for the soldiers in Kuwait during the Middle East there. So I had these veins that would run up and down all through my body that was pumping ice cold refrigerated ice water through me. As it turned out, it would only basically run the ice cold water through me for the first 45 minutes of the day. And then for the rest of the day, it's just pumping piss warm water, not really doing anything to me at all. So I had that. Then I had the fat suit. Then I had fake arms and hands on each one. I had I had a 35-pound air bladder stomach that was Velcroed to my chest that I had to hold up basically, and that created a big air bladder belly that was jiggle and everything, had hair on it and stuff. Then I had the 3 or 4 piece application that covered my whole head, and then I had a wig, I had the beard, I had the teeth, that, like I said, the hands, and then I had the hat, which had like a full-size working lantern in it. Oh, and I had a smoke machine and fiber optic lights in my pants. Then, oh, wow. So then I had all that. Then I had the pants. Then I had the shirt. Then I had a vest. Then I had the jacket, and then I had these massive contacts that weren't like normal contacts. They covered basically like my whole entire eyeball. And so The only part of me that was left was a pinhole in the center of my eyeballs. Everything else was minor 49er. And then the way I had created the character, he had a bit of a slouch and he was a bit of a bow leg. So now I have to create that stance. I have to stay like that all day. I have to run like that. I have to chase Shaggy and them like that. And now having been there for 8 hours and then put all that stuff on and then do that for 12 hours and then go back and then another 2 hours to get out of it. And there were weeks where I had to do that 5 days a week. So it was, and I remember a couple of days where I had like 2.5 hour turnaround. Teamster would drop me off at home, and then 2.5 hours later, another Teamster would pick me up. And it was like, what's the point? Do you really think I slept in that 2.5 hours? But I said, why can't I just stay in my trailer?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, because you have to go off set and then come back to set, because otherwise the clock doesn't stop. And by the end of the week, I'd be making, I don't know, 27 times overtime. It's
crazy.
So what's that? Oh yeah. My wife says, and the problem with that was,
That's funny.
Every hour is a ring.
But it was awful because if they started at 7, they would bring me in about 2, and I'd get there and there'd be nobody there except a half asleep production assistant at the gate waiting to open the gate to let me in. And I get there, there's no breakfast, there's no catering, there's no coffee, there's no water, there's no nothing. It's just me, a half asleep makeup guy, and that's it. And I refuse to be one of those actors who sleeps in the makeup chair, because the makeup guy is tired. He has to be here. Yeah. You know, it just felt disrespectful for me to be sleeping away while he's forcing himself to stay awake to do the makeup on me. So I always look at it as my job is to keep them awake, and they can keep me awake, and we'll work on this together, because it's a joint effort with the people, you know, with all the work that they do. Because I had about 7 people, a team of 7 people on Scooby-Doo 2 that would work just with me. Everywhere I went, I had like this team of people, including my wife, who was my assistant, because I couldn't fit in my trailer. I couldn't fit in the washrooms. I couldn't fit. Once I had all the minor 49er stuff on. I'm 6'6", so by the time I had this stuff on, I was way over 7 feet tall, and I couldn't even fit in the bathroom stalls at the studio. I would basically stand in the middle of the bathroom and aim and get as close as I can. But so that one was probably the most fun, because it was working in the Scooby world. It was being part of this massive budget film. Like, you'd walk on set. When you walk into the Monster Hive and you walk into these different, into the Mystery Inc., you know, headquarters, nothing's fake. Everything is as big as you see. So that was a thrill. It wasn't like films nowadays where you walk in and everything's just green screen.
Green screens everywhere, yeah. So that was both the hardest and your favorite, it sounds like.
I'd say Once Upon a Time, I play in the opening of this TV series. Once Upon a Time, I played the ogre that was part of the dark curse that started the whole series. I was one of the minions of the evil queen, and an episode that I did the second season where I play Jorge Garcia, who's on Lost, the big heavy guy. He played Tiny. He was the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk. In Once Upon a Time, and I played his brother, and it turns out that we're all a family of giants, and we're up there in giant land, and I played but that was weird, because we're sitting around this table and we're all dressed up as the giants, and then the whole world around us was just green screen. There was nothing on set, but I'd walk over to the monitor, and all of a sudden there I am sitting in a castle, and because they already have the stuff designed, and it's already within. It's crazy the way it looks on. You're just sitting in a green room. You go over to the monitor and you're sitting in a castle. It's trippy. You can't get your head around it. But yeah, that creature, the one I did for a show called So Weird, picture I posted on my page yesterday. I played.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I played a troll.
That was a pretty heavy makeup.
That was a pretty big makeup, and They hadn't even painted it yet, so they had to like put the thing on me and then paint it. Usually they paint it back at the shop before they put it on you. And when I first got there, it was like pinkish skin color, and my nose is like up to here, and it's bulbous, and it's got a big thing on the end, and it looks like you got an 8-inch penis nose, right? So I remember I got to set, and I'm sitting in the trailer, and he has just started gluing it all down, and I've got my big pink nose and everything. And one of the women from the studio from Disney comes walking in, and she goes, "Oh wow, you guys are oh my." And she goes, "That looks very wow." And then all of a sudden she goes, "I'll be back. I got to go call my husband." And it was like the two things may not have had anything to do with each other, but it was just like,
sure, it was funny.
She was clearly seeing penis face there, because so that one was crazy, because I was wearing they had the fur on me, but the fur, it was like that fun fur stuff. It was basically like the old fashioned in the 70s, the bath mat. It was like shag carpeting kind of thing. And it was basically strapped to my chest, and I was sweating through the clothes. And it's so people, like, I remember on Scooby-Doo as Minor 49 or someone, it may have been Freddie Prinze Jr., said to me, "Wow, as hot as it is in here, I can't believe you're not sweating." No, the makeup is not sweating. Come on, man. Think about what you're saying. The makeup is not sweating. On the inside, I'm swimming over here.
Oh yeah, the giant monster on my head is not going to sweat.
No, but so I'd say Minor 49er was the hardest, because it was the most involved, but it was also the funnest, because I got to be in Scooby-Doo and I got to play around with
it. Absolutely.
I got the most press and the most publicity out of The Great Child. I mean, I was on the cover of Fangoria magazine. Of all the ghosts, I have the least amount of prosthetics. I have the least amount of makeup. Basically, if you think about it, everyone else looks like a different thing. I'm me. It's just me. That's why it's bizarre whenever I see people with 13 ghost tattoos. It's like this one guy sent me a photo of me, and it's like this big a picture on his thigh, and it's just me. To him, it's The Great Child, but I just see me. That's just me with my head shaved, because they shaved my head. I had a big afro at the time, and they shaved it, but they left the tuft on the top, and then they dyed it blonde. So every 3 days, I'd have to go get my roots touched up. So I had this blonde. So basically, for 3.5 months, I walked around looking like a poodle's ass. And you can blame Shannon Elizabeth for that, because as I was standing there one day talking to Steve Beck, the director, and we were trying to work out the idea for this character, what his look would be, because I have so many versions of the script that were written, because this thing has changed. That 13 Ghosts changed so many times. When I first auditioned for it, my character's name was the Couch Potato. And he basically died on his couch watching TV, and he basically rotted out. And so they had like his eye socket, like a rat was coming out of his eye socket, and you'd see his shirt doing this as going up and down his butt and things. So they didn't really have it developed. And then it was like, I was like I was into BDSM, and I had this short person, little person dominatrix that was like strapped to me, and she was like in leathers. And then that somehow turned into, she's now my mother, and I'm a baby. And it's like, you have no idea how they come together with these ideas. But when I'm standing outside the trailer talking to Steve, and we're trying to figure out this, at this point now, I'm going to be a baby. And he says to Shannon as she's walking by, he says, "Shannon, let me ask you a question. What do you think we should do with the big baby? What kind of look do you think we should have?" And she looks at me, she looks me up and down, and she says, "Oh, it'd be perfect. What was it, in the 60s? There was this duck, and he had like a big diaper, and he had like a big blonde curl." And Steve goes, "Baby Huey?" And he goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I love it." off to makeup I go. They shave off all my hair. They leave the blonde tuft in the front. And that's basically the next 3.5 months walking around looking like that. And it's funny because at the beginning of production, I'd be wearing all the different production hats that I acquired over the years, all the different baseball caps, and just trying to hide my look. And by the end of the 3.5 months, I'd be walking around during the day with little barrettes in my hair. You know, it's like I had a little style to it and everything. Because at that point, all of a sudden, it's like, I'm in a movie. This is what I look like. You know, deal with it.
This is my job.
But yeah, the characters have been crazy. Voyage of the Unicorn, I played Olaf the Ogre. That one was hard. The makeup was hard, and that was hard because I had to do a big wrestling match, like a big fight scene with Beau Bridges. And Beau Bridges, I think, was 63 at the time, and I was like 600 pounds at the time. So I was just like, after each take, I'd be in the corner sucking on oxygen, and I'd look over at this 63-year-old guy. He's just sitting there, he's like keeping limber, waiting for me, and I'm in the corner with the EMTs sucking on oxygen because I'm about to die. You know, it doesn't occur to them I'm 600 pounds. It's like a heat wave outside. We're in like a walnut grove, and I've got on like 20 pounds of prosthetic makeup and this heavy clothing. I had like on like a lederhosen and like a felt vest and everything because I'm playing like a German Olaf the Ogre. So I've got like a little page boy haircut and everything. And that was a hard one just because of the location in the middle of the summer and everything and having to do the physical stuff. I'd say they're all hard and they're all fun because I love doing this for a living. So they're always going to end up fun, but
my favorite thing you did was Say It Isn't So.
Okay.
Campese.
Campese.
Fucking hilarious.
Yeah. That was
wild.
Are you the pancake guy? Yeah. Pancakes. The one thing that they cut out of that scene that I have a picture I posted on my page a few weeks ago. That scene continued in the cafeteria when I freak out and start jumping up and screaming for pancakes. Mm-hmm. That scene ran just a little longer because Nurse Batista, Lynn Shay, she comes back into the cafeteria and she's like, Mr. Campese, sit down, Mr. Campese. And I'm not listening to her because I'm still yelling pancakes. So she takes out a cattle prod and she starts prodding me with this cattle prod and bzz, 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 and I'm not getting down. So then she goes on a chair and she jumps on my back and she's riding my shoulders as she's and she's basically wrestling me like a bull and still hitting me in the side with this cattle prod. And that scene went on probably another 30 seconds. But, you know, when you're not the star of the film, you know, your stuff is the first thing to go. And the scene ended with Chris Klein on the floor. So they cut away from that. But one of the photos that 20th Century Fox used when they were promoting the film was that picture of her riding my back. So I still have that picture. At least that picture was out there. But people were like, where is that scene in the movie? Yeah. No, that film, I tell you, by the end of that film, there must have been A unit, B unit, C unit, splinter unit. I mean, there were so many because they kept coming up with jokes. They kept coming up with gags. They kept coming, oh, you know what'd be good? Oh, you know what'd be good? And so they'd have like the ADs over here shooting this unit and the directors over here shooting this unit. And then now they got the producer over here shooting another unit. And finally, I think somebody from 20th Century Fox had to come in and go, okay, we're pulling the plug, guys. This is crazy. You guys keep shooting stuff, and you've already finished the script. And you know, like the thing with the cow, and you know, Chris Klein having to shove his hand into the cow's ass. Well, the cow they designed, the cow that they designed, the look of the cow, they based it with, I think when they went to look at cows, it was the winter, so the cows had like a bit of a coat. Mm-hmm. So then they send it off to the special effects guys, and they designed the cow based on all the photos and stuff they took of their sample. And then now we're shooting. It's in the summer, and the cows have shed all of their winter hair. So now you have this cow with this nice thin coat, and then they cut to the close up of him, and his cow has got, you know, shaggy hair, and it cuts back and forth. So it's always funny to see those little things. But that movie was the Farrelly brothers. See, originally they were going to direct that film, and they were going to give Me, Myself, and Irene to their assistant to direct, J.B. Rogers. Then they were able to get Jim Carrey to be in Me, Myself, and Irene. And as soon as Jim Carrey got involved, the Farrelly brothers were like, we're going to take that one back. And you can go. You can.
I mean, it was definitely a Farrelly Brothers-esque movie. I mean,
yeah, sure. But yeah, they switched. They were on set and they were supervising, and they would be there. They were there for a few days, but that was a crazy film. But that film, I auditioned for 3 different roles, and each time they brought me back, the role was a bigger role. It was a bigger role, and next thing I know, they bring me in, and he's at this last audition I went to, and he says, "How would you like to be Mr. Campese?" And I said, okay, because I didn't even know what that meant, because I hadn't seen that part yet, because I had auditioned for like a heckler in the audience, and I had auditioned for like one of the guys heckling when he comes in with the cow. There's the people on the side of the street screaming. So they kept bringing me back, and I started to get the feeling that they wanted me in this movie, but they just had to find the right fit for this 600-pound, 6'6" guy. And so then I get the script, and I'm in the car going home, and I'm reading through the script, and Mr. Campese was described as a small, bespectacled man. And I'm thinking, wow, they're stretching their nut on this one. I guess they must like what I look like, and they're just going to make me Mr. Campese. And then as I'm reading through the script, it's like, Mr. Campese, Mr. Campese. Like, holy shit, I'm like a supporting character. How the hell did I do this? It's like
part of the film, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, most people that have seen that film, the first thing they quote is pancakes.
Right, exactly.
And that was the crazy part when we did the scene on the ATV where we've escaped the jail, and now it's Orlando Jones, Chris Klein, and I, and we're on the ATV. I get to set, and the first thing I see there's a sticker on the back of the ATV. It says, "One rider only, no passengers." And I'm thinking, well, there's 2 actors and me. That's 3. I'm 600 pounds. I think we're over the limit here. And I said to the stunt coordinator, and so Chris Klein and Orlando are sitting on the ATV, and then there's just like a luggage rack in the back. And so Rick Barker, the stunt coordinator, says, "Okay, Campese, hop up." And I said, "Where?" He goes, you're sitting on the luggage rack. Swing your legs over. Your legs will be hanging over the side, so your feet will be just above the tire. I'm in pajamas and a robe and slippers. My foot is about that much off the highway, and I'm just sitting there. And we go to start the thing, and it's like there's so much weight on the thing it wouldn't start. So they turn the thing over. They take the governor off of it. Now it's like full bore, and you don't have stunt guys driving. You got these Chris Klein's driving the thing with Orlando Jones. So now I'm sitting on the back. The first thing they do is now he hits the gas. The thing goes up on it, like almost does a wheelie. I almost go flying off the back. And I said to Rick, "What happens? Where's no safety, no nothing?" And they had 2 rope handles. They basically taken 2 little ropes, tied them to the side of the luggage rack. And he says, "Just hold on to those. And if you feel like you're going to flip, let go."
Well, then you're going to flip, right?
I feel safe now. And now go off onto the highway. The 3 of you off onto the highway. Where you go. And then if you watch the movie, when they're driving down the highway and I'm sitting in the back, and I'm supposed to be just daydreaming about my Shangri-La, which is pancakes, right? So I'm just, they're in their own world, and I'm supposed to be on the back of the ATV just like, oh, la, 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 I want some pancakes. And there's one point where the ATV hits a little bump in the road. And if you're watching the movie for about half a second, you just see I'm going, la, la, la. And then all of a sudden I go, and then I go right back into la la la, because there's a half a second there where I thought I was about to die because I thought I was going to get thrown off this speeding ATV.
Well, they probably figured you're an ex-pro wrestler. You're good at this stuff.
Just bounce and throw himself in the ditch.
If he hasn't taken a bump, you'll be all right.
But no, that was a fun one. But that was I remember coming back. We were shooting in Squamish, British Columbia, which is a few cities away, and we had shot we'd already had third meal, which means that we had, we're like way overtime. We're like past dinner, and it was like 3:30 in the morning, and we've been working probably like 18 hours. And I remember I'm in the back seat, the Teamster guy's driving the car back, and he says to me just like this, "Ugh, I hope you don't mind if I take my glasses off. I just drive better when I'm tired without my glasses on." And I'm like, I could have lived the rest of my life not knowing that. You could have taken your glasses off. You could have done whatever you needed to do, but I didn't need to know that you were tired and you drive better with your glasses off. I don't need to know this. I'd be happy just dying in the back seat without any foreknowledge. But yeah, that was a fun film. But I was just for a second going back to 13 Ghosts. The only prosthetic makeup I had was 2 little applications over my eyebrows because they wanted to shave my eyebrows. And I've been doing this long enough, and I know you ain't touching these because there's no guarantee ever that they're going to grow back the same way.
Yeah.
And so I said no. So they put a little application over there, and then everything else. I had like 3 layers of body makeup. There's white pasty stuff they put on, and then they brought the airbrush, and they airbrushed like veins and capillaries and all that stuff all over my body, and then. But it was weird because the trailer that I was in, it was me and the Angry Princess, the one, the naked ghost, as everyone calls her. So it was just 2 of us laying on beds spread out, and the same 2 makeup people going back and forth and doing us. And the only difference between hers and mine was she also had all these applications that were like razor cuts all over her body. So they had to add each one of those individually through her whole body. So that one was just hot. And just because of the house, think about it. This is a glass house. Each wall is glass. Each floor is glass. Each ceiling is glass. They built this thing. So it was like 2,500 panes of glass. It was like big girders of metal and everything. It was 2 stories high. Everything you see in the movie, the walls would move. They would shift. The gears worked. All that stuff that you see in the movie was practical. Everything in that movie was practical other than the spinny wheel thing in the center with all the gears, the Black Zodiac thing. That was an added effect. And that was scary because as we're spinning around on that circle, all the 12 ghosts were standing there and we're going around that thing and all the gears are switching. In reality, it's just a big hole in the ground, about 10 foot down with a bunch of massive fans blowing up at you and all these lights blinding you. And once again, just like the stunt coordinator on Say It Isn't So, Ken Kersinger, who played one of the Jasons, was the stunt coordinator on 13 Ghosts. And I said to him, as we're spinning around the thing, I said to him, I'm pretty wobbly here. What if I feel like I'm going to fall in that hole? He says, if you feel like you're going to fall in the hole, fall back. Oh. Thanks. I was expecting some real stunt coordination there, Ken, but
it's funny that you mentioned him because I thought about bringing him up earlier because you started over in Vancouver in 1990. Yeah. If you were there 2 years earlier, you could have.
I would have been in the first
Jason Takes
Manhattan with the mountains in the background. Yeah.
The mountains of New York City.
It was around the same time that they shot Rumble in the Bronx, where you see the mountains in the background.
It's wild. Like,
man. When the film's about the action and about the blood and the killing, who cares if there's mountains in downtown Manhattan? But Ken was he played one of the team members, Cyrus, at the beginning of the film. Ken played one of the guys that was helping to collect the ghost at the junkyard. Okay. And then Ken was also the stunt coordinator, and I've worked with him many times on different things. It's such a small, incestuous community where after 35 years you've more or less worked with everybody at least once. Except now, it's in the last 5 years. I don't know anybody anymore because ever since COVID, everything switched to self-tapes. So I don't go to auditions anymore. So you never see other actors anymore. You don't know where people are auditioning from. people used to, you'd go to a room and there'd be 7, 10 guys sitting there, and those are the guys you're reading against. Now you send the tape off into the ether and you don't even know if anyone ever sees it. So I don't even know who's working and who's doing anything anymore. I just sitting at home minding my own business.
So I was I checked out, like, I think your newest film, Joe Finds Grace. You sent me a link to it, and I checked that out. That was different, man. I mean, that was really, really cool, dude. I mean, like, I was telling Ryan, it had like some elements of Scanner Darkly with the way the animation was.
Love that movie.
And also just some straight up Looney Tunes parts, man, where shit was just bonkers and all over the place.
Yeah, there's parts of it that are dark. There's parts of it that are very funny. There's like, it's almost like Charlie Chaplin. Some parts of it are like silent movie, like slapstick kind of stuff. And you have a guy with this Elephant Man's disease who lives in this institution and gets a job, a life skills program, working on a dock. And I'm the guy that runs the dock. Yeah. And all of a sudden he starts having flashbacks. And because we shot it in black and white, in 16 millimeter, we thought it would be funny or interesting that his flashbacks, his dreams, everything, all his memories are in color and his life is in black and white. So it's like a flip. And that was the film in 1996 when I was offered to go work on a film in my first lead role in a feature. And I told my boss that I was going to have to leave this job because I needed 3 weeks off. That was that film. That's how long.
I seen.
We started that film in 96, and then we got to the point about 98. We did some reshoots, and because we shot it on 60 millimeter black and white film back in the days when you had to have film and you had to have a big flatbed editor, and everything was the old-fashioned way of making movies. We got to a point where we realized we couldn't make the story the way we wanted to and be able to afford it. I mean, just to get it in a theater, we're going to have to pay like $40,000 to do a blow up to 35 million. It was getting crazy. So we just put this film on the shelf and it sat there for 14 years. And then one day, Anthony, the director, who also plays the lead actor. So the guy with the elephant man disease, that's the director. So he directed the whole movie like that, So there's people that worked on that film have no idea what Anthony looks like because, for the first 3 hours in the day, he would be off getting his makeup on, and then he'd show up on set and he would direct all day with that makeup on. There was a few funny looks on the way to work in the morning when he'd pull into Arby's and get something to eat for breakfast in Arby's, and he's got on his full Elephant Man makeup. But he had seen a documentary with Keanu Reeves where they're talking about the world of digital film when it was new and what you could do with digital. And he saw that and he started thinking, wow, I could actually finish that film. So what we did was we took the actual film, we sent it to LA to Cinelicious. They did a nice 2K ProRes scan of it, sent it back to us. And now we had the film on the computer. And we were like blown away because we'd never seen the film this clear. We didn't have dailies back in 96. We had like bi-monthlies, whenever we could afford to develop some more film.
A newsletter.
Yeah. So we would shoot and then our fingers would be crossed that we got what we wanted because we didn't even have like playback or anything. It was just like trusting the DP's eye. So he then put the film into the computer, and then all the animation, we retooled the storyline because it was a completely different storyline, and he did all that animation himself as well. So he was able to continue with the film and that animation style. He almost calls it like it's almost like animated painting because it's not like a fluid animation, like it's not rotoscope. It's both. It's like he painted over. We filmed actors on a green screen with just a home movie camera, and then he put that in the computer, and then he would like draw over it on his computer. But then
he did that in a movie way back in the day. I can't remember who it was. I read that they painted over the actual frames of the movie.
Yeah. Well, they did that back with the Great Train Robbery back in like 1904. They already did that when they shoot the gun and he painted the red. But yeah. So, but if you notice in the film, none of the animation is even though it's animation, it's almost like stop motion too, because nothing is fluid. It's like shots, and in each shot it moves to the next thing. So the way he did the animation, but it's basically, we joked about it when we were filming it. It was like, what if Woody Allen was to remake The Elephant Man, but as a road movie, and then you added Scanner Darkly,
That's kind of what we got here.
Yeah.
Like what you just described is what we got here.
And the reason why I released Joe Finds Grace to YouTube was because we finished it in 2016. It went to festivals. It did the festival run. It won the best animated film. Even though it's only like 40% animated, it won the best animated film at Another Hole in the Head Film Festival in San Francisco. And we got an award in New York. But nobody wanted to touch this film. We didn't get into a single festival in Canada. Nobody wanted to do anything with this film because they couldn't pigeonhole it. They couldn't say it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's an animated film. It's all those things. Yeah. And then there's characters who speak a whole other language. The two producers, they just speak like variety producer language. It's all, everything is.
The way I took that part was Joe himself didn't really understand what they were saying, so that's what he was hearing.
Well, that's where the whole blah 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 comes in, and every so often a word that he recognizes. That's why when they finally ask him a question and he finally doesn't know what to say, it's like blah. It's like, and that's when they finally realize, yes, he speaks our language, but he doesn't know what's going on, and he thinks he's responsible for what happened to his sister. So he spends the whole film looking for his lost sister and everything. So that film is available to watch on our YouTube channel. And the other film that I produced, Exuvia, which is a coming of age story, which is basically a 10-year-old boy who spends the summer with a live-in nanny that they've brought in to take care of him. And he's spent his whole life being bullied and having to be the grown-up at home. And he's never gotten to be a real child and have a childhood. And he basically learns as 10 years old, learns how to be a child again through this nanny. And Joe Finds Grace and Exuvia are both on Braidway Pictures channel.
I have to check that
on YouTube
out. I did watch Joe Finds Grace, and I really liked it. And I do another podcast with a group of podcasters called Talking Tapes Collective, and we're gonna you actually know one of the guys. You did his podcast, Doobies and Scary Movies. And we're gonna review Joe Finds Grace on there. Because like the way I described it to them, I said, some people I think are going to really love it, and some people maybe not so much. But I think everyone will respect what it is. I mean, it's different. It's like nothing you've ever seen.
Exactly.
It's got bits of things that you've seen, but it completely is like nothing you've ever seen. It's I really like the artistic direction of it, and I really dug the film, man.
I like what's funny is we finished that in 2016. We worked with Kevin MacLeod, who we got the music from, who did the score of the movie, and in 2016 that was all new. Since 2016, he's offered up most of that music to like TikTok and to all. So it's so bizarre for me because I think of that music in that movie as Joe Finds Grace music. And almost every reel that I see on YouTube or that I see on Instagram or TikTok or everything has that music as their background music. And it's so trippy, but people who see the movie now, they're like,
you stole a bunch of TikTok movies.
You stole that TikTok music. And it's like, no, they stole our TikTok. TikTok stole our music. But the film is in its own category. You can't classify it as anything other than different.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the way I was describing it to these guys. But we usually only go for an hour, man. We're like way over.
Oh, sorry.
And, no, it's totally cool, man. We're gonna have you back on because I got a fucking page full of other things I want to talk to you about. So what we're gonna do, because Ryan's actually on another podcast as we speak. He's there. Like, everybody's there. That's a pre-taped one, but he was supposed to go in the comments and be able to chat with people. So we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay.
Ryan, you want to just take off and go and do that, and then I'll finish wrapping this up.
Yeah, remind Ernest to let everybody know where they can follow him and watch those movies again too.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you.
Right. Yeah. So we can follow you on Facebook. It's all under your name.
Yeah, on there's only one C.Ernst Harth. So if you punch my name into Facebook or Instagram, you'll find me. If you go to YouTube, I have the C.Ernst Harth channel. And if there's a movie that I've been in and it's on YouTube, I have a playlist of all my full-length movies that are available anywhere on YouTube. I have a playlist of all the commercials I've been in. I have a playlist of all the short films, all the music videos. I just did two new music videos last year. One, I play a pig. It's like a Doctor of the Island of Dr. Moreau kind of thing. And I play a guy who he infused with the pig DNA. And then I did another one where I basically played this psycho, they call him a deviant ringleader. He's basically like has stolen this woman and he's keeping her as his doll. And so they're very dark type videos. And so I've got those two. Those are all on my YouTube page, C.Ernst Harth, CPP Entertainment. But like I said, you just put in C.Ernst Harth, you'll find me. Facebook is where I do most of my promotion. That's where you can go if you're interested in purchasing a signed print. I have all the 13 Ghosts films we didn't even mention: Dead Rising, Watchtower. I got the X-Files, Once Upon a Time. So I got 8x10 prints that you can get from me. I'll sign them for you. I'll personalize them if you want. You can go there, free shipping. It's $30 Canadian, which is like $22 US. So it just keeps getting better. But with the tariffs and all the craziness, it's like, if anybody wants to know why you haven't seen me at any shows in the States, it's because I ain't going anywhere near the border. I know people that have been stopped. I know people that have been taken away. A band that a friend of mine, a band was about to do a European tour, and the drummer was pulled off the plane, and they had to cancel their whole European tour because if you aren't a citizen, or if you're from another country, but and when you're an actor and you go across the border, they immediately think you're going there to work. And so you just get berated at the border. It's like they start going, "Oh, so you're an actor? What have you been in?" And then you're like, "Oh, God, I've been in 120 different things." It's like, I have no idea what
that have had a lot of wrestlers back to wrestling that have had trouble coming across the border, because if they say they're coming here to wrestle, they can get in trouble or something. So they have to come up with some bullshit excuse why they're actually coming.
And everyone now, at the border, all of the guards and everything, everyone is like emboldened. Everyone feels like they're in super asshole mode. So you can't joke, you can't do. So it's like, I don't want any. So instead of people going to see me at shows, I found it's just easy enough that they can contact me. We can have a personal moment online. I can sign you a print or whatever you want, and I can send it to you. And that's at CEHARTH on Facebook. And that's the main place where I don't have a cell phone, so I'm not into the whole TikTok. And
that's not saying that in today's day and age you don't have a cell phone,
Yeah. No, we have a land.
My wife is probably much better for it.
Yeah, my wife and I, we both work from home. So who are we calling? It's like, I'm here. If you need to call me, I have a landline. You can phone that thing and leave a message on the answering machine.
It was so much better when it was like that. You know what I mean? That's why I envy you for sure with that.
Well, when I'm out of the house, I'm out of the house. I'm looking
You'll find out when you get home. There'll be a message. Yeah.
Yeah. My agent says to me, you're the only person on my roster who doesn't have a cell phone. And I always say to her, well, considering I didn't have a cell phone when I joined your roster, what's it matter? I've never had a cell phone. I think I don't have a car either, and I don't even have a driver's license. So there.
I'm pretty sure from Ken Sagos, Nightmare on Elm Street.
I
don't think he has a cell phone either, because I have his phone number, but it's a house phone.
Yeah.
If I got to get a hold of him, I got to call. I'm gonna leave a message. He gets back to me when he gets home.
Oh, so many times they said, when you get to set, text me. It's like, well, I'm going to have to go back home to my computer, or you want me to text you. The weird thing is when people text me, and then I get this weird text to landline message where the computer tries to read the person's text, but because people don't text in proper words anymore. So you get the computer going because they're trying to read the short forms.
The gibberish, yeah, the gibberish.
When I did Smoking Aces 2, another film we didn't get into, where I played one of the Tremor brothers, Baby Boy Tremor. At one point in the film, I pick up a guy and I throw him with all my might into the side of a garbage can, and I threw the stunt guy so hard that the padding, which was supposed to be the sign on the side of the garbage can, came off and landed on him. And so the next day, I get a thing that says, "You have a text to landline message from," and then it recites a number, which I didn't recognize. And then it goes, and it says, "And here's your message." Now, what the hell? And I play it back, and I bring my wife in the room. I go, what is this? Can you understand this? About. And so I finally figured out what it was, who it was from. And I emailed him, and he had typed "ow." OWWWW. That's what he texted me. But the computer's like, "Ow, ow, ow." So, yeah, I like to think that I'm still the same person that I was when I started this business. The rest of the world changed.
Absolutely. Like I said, you're better off for it because these things are like a freaking anchor. You know, it was just, I was talking to a friend that's like, man, it was so much better when I could do whatever. People still got a hold of me eventually. They would call, they'd leave a message. I'd get home and my mom would say, so-and-so called. And I'd call back so-and-so. And maybe they were there and maybe they weren't. If they weren't there, then I'd leave a message for so-and-so. Yeah. Hey, I'll be back here at this time. You want to call me? And it worked so much better.
Like when my agents, when they started doing self-tapes, they're just telling everybody, okay, you can just use your phones. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to go buy a digital camera because I don't have a cell phone. So you had to start buying things, and that's when you started like, what work are our casting directors doing anymore? They used to have to run the auditions. Now they just get a bunch of auditions sent to them. It's a whole other world. But thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, man. It was last talking to you. And like I said, we're going to have to do this again because I got a bunch of stuff I didn't get a chance to get into that we'll get into next time. But thanks for coming on. And I'll let you know when we do that review with the rest of those guys of the film. So you could watch that video and see what they thought of it. And I really think they're going to dig it. But Joe Finds Grace available on YouTube. Just look it up on YouTube, guys. Check it out. Let me know what you think about it. Let C.Ernst know what you think about it, and I really, really, really think you're gonna love it. And I'll check you out later, man. I'll send you a message in a little bit. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Okay, so I am on my own here, so I will wrap this up without Ryan. I'm gonna jump over to the YouTube if you guys are still watching. Cine Nerds. I'll be over there. Ryan is doing a top slasher kind of deal thing that when he guest starred on their show. Check out C.Ernst Harth. Follow him on Facebook. Check out the movie, and I will see you guys next week. And I am